Hi, I'm Daniel Lucas, and welcome to Abstract Essay, where the take shape, thoughts find up, and every conversation explores the art of thinking beyond the obvious. And today I have my special guest. He's a marketing coach, an actor, and of course, a voice-over artist, none other than Mr. Kyle Asperger.
Daniel, thank you for having me, and of course, a happy and prosperous new year to you as well, my friend.
Yes, indeed. Thank you for being part on Abstract Essay. And can you please introduce more about yourself that
You pretty much nailed it exactly on the head. I'm originally from Chicago, these days living out in Denver, Colorado. Um, Marketing coach, so that comes with a decade of being in marketing, being a marketing agency owner myself, and sort of taking on this sort of almost like a marketing vigilante role.
I
Help
Mhm.
the makers to be able to see and diagnose. All right, what's out there? What's going to work for me? Because this landscape is ever changing and quite rapidly.
Mhm.
And outside of that, doing a bit of acting, and there's actually weirdly enough, there's a little bit of trickle over between marketing and the acting world, whether film or commercial. Um, but that's it. It's a great way to keep the creative juices going there.
Yes, and thank you so much for sharing your creative juices to the world. Mr. Kyle. Thank you. And today let's talk about anarchy entrepreneurship. At
Beautiful.
it, yeah, so at its core, how do you define anarchy in the context of entrepreneurship? Is it more about rejecting external governance or building specific kind of internal culture?
Well, all right. So if we think about anarchy from like where like the dictionary has it, which I believe is just like destroy everything and cause
Hmm.
complete and utter chaos. I believe that we as society, as humans, as individuals, we are blessed with the opportunity to be able to rethink and re-engineer the way we consider words. And so my coaching practice is very simply called Anarchy for a Day. The reason that I chose that is because, well, it worked for me.
Hmm.
Anarchy. So in a moment where I was figuring, I got to go find a full-time job because this marketing agency thing is just not the right product base anymore. We have AI that's coming in, and a lot of people are getting probably pretty excited to think, all right, well, if I can automate all these different processes, then why do I
Hmm.
need to pay an expensive agency? Either that, or I cannot tell you how many people have come to me throughout the years and said, dude, like, we have been paying a team or an individual to essentially handle different components of marketing, and it just ain't working out. That's where a lot of the problem is. There's just distrust in marketing. So the marketing agency, that was not the answer anymore. And so I reached that point where I said, all right, I need to find a full-time job. Something about my own application process, though, I wasn't able to attract the right sort of opportunity. I was looking for marketing directors, creative director positions, whatever. And so I reached out to a coach for myself, figuring, all right, I have to adjust my own resume. And so in this very first conversation I had with the coach, she says, all right, we have to focus on the resume. I see that. But I could also see you as a coach, just based on your personality, the way that you operate too. And I said, well, that's a high compliment. Same week, I'm invited by the Colorado Nonprofit Association to build out a single day in person boot camp for them. So now I'm faced with this sort of coincidence happenstance where, all right, well, the coach is like, dude, you should try coaching. And then I'm building out course materials at the same time. And so this idea of, becoming this coach, this educator is kind of building up in a more and more realistic image in my mind. And I figured, well, this is a bit of this is total kind of anarchy up in my own brain space because I'm having to completely rethink the way that I was previously doing something. And inevitably, Anarchy for a Day spun out of this entire process. Very simply because I realized that anarchy, if you apply that general concept of simply if everybody goes left and you go right, if you apply that concept a bit more tactically, so in very specific situations as opposed to just whenever, wherever, for just about no reason, anarchy can be a tool to inspire innovation. Because think about the innovators of the past. I don't believe that innovations have ever been born because innovators were doing the exact same thing that others were. So that's the concept of anarchy. And in practice, we can consider it like Sophie. This is a great little quip that I think explains it very well. Sophie wants to have a lemonade stand. And I think that there's a lot of kids who would say, all right, well, I'm going to put this lemonade stand right outside my parents' house because I've seen, Jimmy do it down the street and it worked for him. And everybody flying by that day, that becomes Sophie's customer base. But instead, Sophie says, you know what? I would instead like to put my lemonade stand in front of my dad's construction site. And that little bit of rethinking where and how to execute this lemonade stand. These guys have money, they're working in the heat, so they're thirsty. And she very literally put herself in front of a thirsty marketplace. And so that tiny, tiny little bit of rethinking right there, that is anarchy in practice.
Mr. Kyle, you said, well, you define anarchy often conjures images of chaos and disorder. How do you reconcile the popular perception with the structure and order necessary to run a sustainable business?
Well, it's coupled with the story, because if somebody does look at anarchy, then you can very simply label it as what it is. But again, it's anarchy is when and where you apply it. Because if we think about it from a business standpoint, the ideal, I believe, is that a business would find its own blue ocean as opposed to floating around in the red ocean. So the blue ocean requires some level of individuality, whether this is quite literally the individual person or a business. Um, these days we are highly connected as a society, the world. We have the internet, we have social media. We now have access to all businesses of all kinds. And all of these different businesses that are doing probably a lot of the same kind of work, if not highly overlapping. How do we distinguish one another? Whether it's simply the customer service that these individuals are providing to their customer base versus some very highly specified product per se. So that is the idea: is how deeply do you understand yourself, your business, your product, your service? What is it that is truly different, unique? And only at that point, then, when you're able to objectively look at the idea of the concept, then you can take a little bit of anarchy and figure, okay, well, if we have the marketplace that is kind of broadly doing this, how is it that I can do this? So I set myself apart. So that generally is, I think, an answer to your question, Daniel.
Mr. Kyle, is anarchic entrepreneurship is creation of a regulation, a specific management philosophy, or a new form of capitalist counterculture?
It's a way of being and a way of doing, I would say. And in certain cases, because I think you gave us a couple different categories, counterculture is a very applicable word here, because the very essence of anarchy is very simply just, all right, if everybody's doing this, how is it that I do this? not to completely disrupt and just destroy everything, but to set yourself apart. Because if you're not notable in any way, if you don't stand out in the marketplace, very simply in business, you will not be successful. There has to be a draw. Why is it that people are coming to you? Why is it that other businesses are coming to you? So, as far as a capitalistic gain, if there is one to be had, the point being, we apply anarchy so that we separate ourselves, so that we no longer look like all of the competition. The so when I say it's more of a lifestyle component, anarchy, well, heck, this could be, if a manager decides to bring a little bit of anarchy into the way that they're doing things, there are, okay, well, we hope that this manager takes care of the people. But, within that, anarchy is a way of switching things up. And switching things up, if you have people that are complacent and are sort of moving in the same lane, that's a great way to spark some level of life back to the day to day. So essentially, you switch them up, you get them out of what they're used to, and yeah, I mean, think about acting too. It's a wonderful exercise to just enliven whatever that part of you is that's kind of dormant, so that you can bring more freedom, more truth to whatever the performance is following. But within the office space, having that moment of disruption essentially wakes people up. So it's just a good way to keep everybody alive and alert, I think, too.
Let's talk about the mechanics and practice, Mr. Kyle. In practical terms, what does an anarchic structure look like in a startup? Is it a hierarchies, decentralized decision making, or something more radical?
I struggle assigning any kind of hierarchy to it. You pose an extraordinary question, um, but I don't believe that there is a clear answer to this one. Anarchy is something that it's entirely situational. In other words, the all right, let's keep it to strictly just a business. This business, whether or not there are employees, it's regarding the service, the product, the marketplace, the individuals that they're speaking to. They need to have a very thorough understanding of all these different components. And then we need to know, all right, what resources do we have available? We're talking manpower, we're talking money, time, technology, whatever it may be, expertise. All of these pieces fall into your question, which is, more or less, is there, uh, how do we apply it? I believe is probably what you're asking. And in other words, if we can template this out and figure out some sort of a hierarchical um, application, well, that's, we always love to template things out. But essentially, my gist is anarchy is only applicable in very specific individual circumstances. In other words, all pieces, all parts of the whole need to be considered. Like there is no copy and paste solution here.
So, can you share an example for a company or entrepreneur who successfully embodies this principle? What key practice they employ that would be unthinkable in a traditional corporate setting?
Well, I think about it from the like there's just it's a matter of understanding the market, the individuals that you're speaking to. Okay, what is it that they value? What will pique their attention? What will they remember? What will they perhaps not even know that they need that you're able to serve up to them? These kinds of things are driven essentially by these businesses that have done a tremendous amount of research. And so they have this working knowledge of the individuals that they serve. So, in other words, they know their market very clearly and they're able to speak the language of these folks. And inevitably, that's what gains these businesses or entrepreneurs, entities, whatever, the longer term following, because people can actually form that connection. So I know that doesn't answer the question yet. That's to really sort of build up the um, like the background. Is that's the crucial component, is you need to understand your marketplace. And so I don't want to reference one specific company, but companies that are able to speak the language that their consumer base is speaking and do it successfully, that means that these businesses are taking some swings. They're talking about things that maybe more traditional businesses have not been wanting to embrace, or perhaps have been too scared, or the HR department has said, well, I would probably suggest we don't do that. There's all manner of reason as to why somebody would avoid. I'm not saying like go, you know, start a controversy or something like that, but speak your consumer language. And the moment that you begin doing that, you will find instant connection.
Mr. Kyle, let's talk about the tension with the traditional systems. Anarchic ventures still need capital, which often comes from traditional venture capital firms and strict terms and expectations for governance. Is it taking venture capital funding the ultimate compromise of anarchic principles?
That comes down to a value alignment. Um, because the moment that you accept another's funds, those come with stipulations as to, okay, well, I am giving you my money. Thus, I'm probably going to have some conditions, some requirements, some requests. And so, no, you are not compromising anarchical, application. But people have asked me in the past, like, all right, what's your take on the investors, the venture capitalist? And I said, well, it's not good, it's not bad. That's the reality. It really depends on where you are and how much control you want to maintain over your own empire. So, all right, I surround myself with a number of people who pretty staunchly ground themselves in the concept of, all right, if you are an entrepreneur, then you need to own as much of what you do as possible. Do not allow for somebody else to come in, take it over, change it, tweak it, adjust it to their own world vision, whatever that may be. Now, on the other hand, accepting another bit of capital can be extraordinary to growing the business entity. So as long as you are able to find investors, partners that are in alignment with the way that you choose to navigate whatever waters that you're in, I'd say that's probably the greatest route to success. You can grow, and you have people around you that are of the like mind. So you, when you make decisions, inevitably won't get the pushback. It's like, well, we disagree with this. Also, we're pulling our funds. That's worst case scenario. So, yeah.
Many praise the move fast and break things ethos as anarchic, but often leads to societal backlash and regulation. Is this style of entrepreneurship ultimately self defeating, Mr. Kyle?
I wish I had a clear number to be able to talk about, this kind of like shotgun approach, like shoot now, ask questions later. And like the number that I wish that I had of like the number of businesses that really were spun out of this kind of process, I don't have one. And so anything that I say would be purely speculatory. But the reality is, hopefully, the individuals that are essentially making these quick decisions are basing it off of realities, data that they've gathered over some period of time from a reasonable body of, a test group, whoever that may be. Because like you don't want to begin a business out of just thin air for whatever reason. You just think this is a cool idea. I haven't asked anybody if they like this idea, but I'm pretty sure this is a good idea. You want to know that there is a marketplace, that people will be attracted to your product, your service, whatever it may be. So sometimes that approach can absolutely work, and sometimes it fails very quickly or fails over time. There is no real answer, and I'm certainly not against it, because one of the realities these days, life, technology, things are moving at a very quick pace. AI is in such a spot where, oh man, it's evolving at such a pace that almost humanity is not able to keep up with it, and that makes it tough for a lot of people. I think that has people kind of right now scared. There's enough people that are losing jobs because of it too. We got that as sort of a byproduct, but yeah, it's just, if things are moving fast, you have to. You see that in the tech world, go build it, and inevitably there's going to be an AI bubble. People are talking about that, so it works. Just be smart with it.
Yes, people build and adapt. Let's talk about the broader implications in the future. Mr. Kyle, is the primarily a model for disruptive tech startups, or can its principles be applied to a Main Street businesses, manufacturing, or service industries?
It depends on the clientele, because I am essentially, like, one of my current clients right now, they are a manufacturing consultant. So the audience base that they deal with responds to a fairly narrow range of information, very specific information too, that says, all right, well, we have the expertise to be able to deal with these uh, really high level problems that are causing you potentially millions in like supply chain issues, or whatnot. So all of this talk about anarchy of, if they do one thing, then go off and do something else so that you can set yourself apart. The idea here is that, okay, there's a range. Not everything is extreme. Me calling the business alone anarchy for a day, that's a fairly extreme swing. I'm not advising everybody takes that exact direction, because with this manufacturing consultant, we have to be within the realm of reality, based on the client, the product, the service, and the individuals that they are speaking to. Because if they start coloring out of the lines, we've lost them. So the idea is, okay, well, if we have that, literally think about it like a coloring book. You have to color within the lines. But the way that you shade, the colors that you add to bring life to the page, that's where you can play. In order to do that, you need to understand your marketplace. Okay, so that's the people that you're talking to, the target market, the individuals that you, the CEO, are aiming for, or whoever your primary like client base is. The I'm trying to stay on sort of one linear track here, but my brain is sort of malfunctioning right now. The like
So, Mr. Kyle, let's talk about the personal and provocative. What is the most significant personal sacrifice or conflict you have faced in trying to building venture on anarchy principles?
Say that one more time, as far as personal sacrifice goes.
Yes, personal sacrifice or conflict you have faced.
For me personally,
Yes, please.
as far as how I apply anarchy,
Mm-hmm. as in who in general?
It is interesting. For me because I cover a couple different things, like as you mentioned, the sort of the kickoff here. I'm an actor as well, and
Hmm.
I don't think I've done a terribly good job of blending in over the years, and perhaps that's why I bring a little bit of life to the screen, and if people like it, then great. It, but the reality is, okay, there's sort of like the PR component of being a business owner, of being an actor. That's why I'm podcasting in the first place. It's a tremendous vehicle to get conversation out there so that people can get to know me. It's organic conversation. None of this is scripted. That's why I'm attracted to podcasts in the first place. Um, it is within that, as somebody who is known for simply just, speaking his mind, being just a real individual. I'm mostly just parroting what other people have said, but also what I just know is this is just me. It, being real doesn't always mean that we're playing it safe. And so that level of safety and is, I mean, we live in a world where like culture is still alive and well. Um, people are very fragile these days. Society is fragile in a lot of ways. Um, and so one of the difficulties, I don't know if I can quite call it a sacrifice. One of the difficulties is just figuring out, what is the range that I can play within as far as what I speak about openly, publicly. What thoughts can I share? What issues, topics can I touch on? And how real can I get with my opinions? Because everybody has opinions that are less agreeable. I guess it's just a matter of how comfortable you are with sharing it and figuring out what kind of brand you want to develop within that. Because I believe firmly that so much of today's world is it's guided by this kind of corporate monster. I'm not demonizing all corporate. I mean, we wouldn't have the smartphones that we do without it. There is tremendous good that the corporate economy has done for us, but it does have such a heavy influence, even politically, that we cannot disregard it. Within film, we're losing a lot of the innovation, a lot of the true storytelling, because these production studios, these corporate giants are figuring, well, we have to do what's safe and will make us money. So making us money doesn't always mean swinging for the fences and taking risks. Those risks are sometimes where you get those gems in life, whether it's a new story, a way of thinking about something. I don't know, but I just feel that society, we're kind of losing that in a lot of ways.
Mr. Kyle, if you had to choose, is the ultimate goal of anarchic entrepreneurship to create a successful business despite the philosophy, or to use business as a vehicle to demonstrate that the philosophy itself is a superior way to organize human endeavor?
Anarchy is only effective when it's based in good, solid business practice. That is the other component too. That like anarchy can't thrive unless you already have a good structure in place. I mean, if the structure needs to be scrapped and retooled entirely, then fine. But it's business end of day. I support good business. I stand for good business, and my coaching is reflective of that. It's because I've both operated and I've handled poor business myself, and I look back on those days and I think, wow, I was just I can't believe I made some of the decisions that I made. And you know, hopefully you can look at those and learn from those moments in life, as I did. And that's really where I stand, is to say, all right, as long as you operate good, ethical, business practice. Anarchy does not mean that you should go start, screwing people over just for the joy of simply doing something different. No, I mean, we're philanthropists. We are still people. End of day, we are business people. We're entrepreneurs. We're makers. We're whoever it is that we are. That's what the world needs, and we have to operate again within the lines of this coloring book page, and that is, we are good people. End of day, we need that, but within those lines, we need vibrant colors. And the individuals, the businesses, the entrepreneurs that are able to approach good business, but with the vibrance and the confidence of the anarchist, those are the individuals that, to me, are absolutely worth watching, if not investing in and purchasing from.
Mr. Kyle, before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people, because my Abstract Essay is already in fifth season, Abstract Poetry in second season, and my Book 101 review, it's coming sixth season, Comedy 101 third season, and Food 101 in sixth season as well, Geography 101 Love Letters, Movie 101 Review, Music 101 our fourth season, Science 101 and Sex 101 in its third season, and my baby podcast, Mental Health 101, Law 101, Bible Verses 101, Entrepreneurship 101, and of course, Motivation 101. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. So, Mr. Carl, imagine a future where this model is the norm, not the exemption. What does the world look, feel, and operate like for the average person?
This model being, what is it that you're referring to?
The anarchic or anarchy in entrepreneurship.
It is a world, a society, a marketplace full of individuals that are not afraid to embrace what it is that is truly theirs. These are individuals that are educated, they know how to operate good and solid business, but they are truly, unequivocally them, and the powers that be are not influencing them in such a way that they feel the need to stuff that away. The world needs individuality.
Yes, and thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world, Mr. Kyle. Thank you, thank you. So, can you please invite our listeners to support your advocacy, your business, or whatever projects that you're doing right now?
Well, I am all of the productions I've been in. They're currently in post production, so stay tuned. Easiest way to probably keep abreast on those is just give me a follow on Instagram or Facebook. Anything that's where I post most of the stuff. Instagram is Kyle Asperger 301, or just Kyle Asperger on Facebook. And then if you'd like to dive into the world of anarchy for a day, it is very simply anarchy for FOR day.com.
Yes, I think it is the one I'm showing now on the screen, right, Mr. Kyle?
That's the one.
Yes, people love support Mr. Kyle Asperger because if you support him, for sure, more and more empowering advocacy like this to rise. So, Mr. Kyle, thank you so much for your time.
Daniel, it was a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Yes, tune in, people. Mr. Kyle will be my guest on Entrepreneurship 101. We will talk about business mindset. More to come, people. See you soon.